Hey, it's Empress Rose here. Welcome to this reading. It's a little bit of a departure for me. I'm going to experiment here. So this is going to be a general reading for the collective, as we say, for the week of December 4th. And yeah, so we're going to try this, see what happens. I'm using the Good Tarot by Colette Baron Reed. I don't use it very often, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going to pull out 5 cards. And then overall for the reading, we have Messenger of Earth. Okay, so Messenger of Earth isn't typically, that's going to be our Knight of Pentacles. It doesn't really communicate, but what I'm actually... there's intent, though, about something having to do with, like, the real world, like actually creating something in reality. She wants to communicate. She's trying to communicate without having to say anything. But there's a plan and intention. So this could be about plans, intentions, about how to move forward. But they don't actually say anything, which is pretty consistent with the Knight of Pentacles, that not actually saying anything, but a lot of intention. They're trying to, like, you get what I'm saying, but without saying anything, right? So we have 4 of air here. So a little bit of a rest, a break, thinking about things, a very contemplative space, rethinking things. It's got a little bit of Hanged Man energy to me. And this peacock energy, this communication, but we're not showing off. But we're thinking about how we can show something, how we can display something. It's almost like an interruption has happened here. And we've gotten maybe some bad feedback, or we're taking in some sort of something that didn't go well. Like we're not sitting here being like, yeah, that went well, that went great. Now I'm gonna relax, put my feet up, job well done. There's some sort of something happened, and we're really thinking about, like, why didn't that go the way I thought it would? So something's, and it's definitely got you thinking here. And maybe some sort of performance, something that you did, it was very public and it didn't go very well. So you're really rethinking some things here. So then we move on to 6 of air. This is a lot of detachment energy. Okay, well, moving on. Basically, it's like, well, that didn't go well. Well, moving on. There's maybe some messages you're communicating, but it's just like time to detach. And there's definitely some buoyancy here as you move forward. Although I'm just going to say that these sails are billowing out the wrong direction. Like it's moving you backwards. Like having taken sailing lessons 2 summers in a row, because I love the concept of it, but I'm not a good learner of sailing. Like, it's a little too technical for me. But I can get the vibe. I can do it intuitively, but don't ask me to tell you what I'm doing or what anything's called. So, but I can tell you that this sailboat is like heading backwards. And so, like, is this a mistake on the artist's part? But I mean, that's possible, but there's a detachment, but then there's also a return, like, okay, that didn't go well. And then we have the 6 of air that's sort of like, well, we're detaching from something. Okay, we're no longer, we're pulling up anchor here. We're no longer going to be anchored to perhaps a spot of disappointment. But instead of pulling up anchor and moving forward, we're pulling up anchor and being moved backwards, back to perhaps where we were before this disappointment, where we were before we sort of like cut, quit, done, time out. I gotta like figure out what actually just happened here. And so then figuring that out, you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to just sit here forever. I'm going to like move on. But instead of moving forward, you go back to some sort of place that maybe you were, yeah, it's like, okay, that didn't go well. That wasn't what I really wanted. The feedback I've gotten is reassuring me that I know what I'm talking about when I say that that didn't go well. And then you sit there for a while and you're like, okay, let's move on. And your expectation is to like move on. But instead, what happens is like, let's redo, let's start at the beginning. So it's a little bit of like, you start the play and you get partway through and you're like, this is not going well. And so you stop, and instead of picking up where you leave off, you start at the beginning again and start going through it again. Or you just go back to the beginning as all this 6 of air. There's a lot of talking about it too. There's a lot of like communicating about it, and like, because there's just confusion in the 6 of air of what direction you need to go in. You're detaching, but there's not clarity. You're facing this direction, but spirit is moving you back there. So then we have like this Empress energy where you do have what it takes though to figure this out. You do have what it takes. I love this Empress sitting right in the middle here. Here she is, our Empress, very abundant. Well, this could be why I don't use this deck very much. I'm allergic to wheat, or I have celiac, so having the Empress hold a bunch of wheat isn't very alluring for me. But it is like, it does speak of abundance, of the abundance of humanity. There's this holding your ground, holding firm with something. You have this. You've got this. So you kind of had some disappointment, had to rethink some things. It didn't go the way you planned. You've decided, okay, well, I'm not going to sit here and wallow. I'm going to detach. But then there's some confusion about which direction you should head. Are you picking up where you left off and moving forward? Or are you, it looks like that's what you intended to do, but instead you go back to some sort of beginning. But you do have what it takes. You have everything you need, and it is yours. There's no doubt about some sort of like success is yours. The future is yours. I also want to talk about beer for some reason. With the wheat, and just the potential. So I'm actually not seeing this as the Empress. I'm seeing this more as like the 9 of Pentacles, where she's actually the vintner, and she's succeeded at growing the grapes, right? We have these ancient vines that grow these grapes, and then with these grapes, then we can take those and make the wine process. So what I'm seeing here in this Empress is like, you have achieved a very solid foundation. There is a sense of achievement. There's much more to do here, but there is a sense, so there will be a sense of achievement coming in this week, and self-confidence and self-assuredness, even though you seem to be going back to the beginning, which is not what you really wanted to do here, after a disappointment which caused you to rethink some things. So then we have the Magician also here, someone who is really intent on making things happen. This person, I feel like this person really believes in you, or there's somebody here, the universe believes in you and is very intent on getting you to grow, wanting you to get to the next level. So this Empress energy has you, I guess, like at a certain level with something, a certain level of expertise. And this Magician energy has this sort of like intent to bring it further, and this belief in you. Okay, it's like, he's like, okay, you've got the wheat, you've harvested this, okay? Now we have to go into the beer making process, okay? So they really want you to move it forward. You have something, you have accomplished something, and this Magician here shows up as either a person, a mentor, or someone, or the universe, or some other part of yourself that really is very intent on you taking these resources that you have and making something more out of that, right? The Magician's taking all these like resources They're gathering the resources to make them greater than the sum of its parts. It's a soup. It's not deconstructed soup where we have, broth here and some herbs you can munch on occasionally, and maybe a little bit of beans here and some ham here. It's going to be all, there's like a bigger recipe here. So it's like, okay, you have, sauteed the vegetables. We're making soup though, we're not making stir fry. So we're not stopping at the sauteing the vegetables. We're going to move forward. So there's this, I think, strong intent. Again, we have like this not talking, but this almost willing you, the universe just like, you are going to do this now. We want you to move on. We want you to go bring this to the next level, bring this to the next thing. There's more to this process. You have achieved something, but there is more to do. So in that way, that could have you feeling like this back to the beginner, back to the beginning, back to being a beginner, restarting something or starting something new, or being pushed back to a beginning position again. Like, okay, you're being pushed back to harbor. It's because you made it so far, and now we need you to go back and get momentum so you can go further, so you can complete this. So then we have 8 of air. And it's interesting because that's going to be 8 of swords. There's a lot. What's interesting is we start with a messenger that can't speak or isn't speaking, but is just trying to telepathically will you into doing something, which I see repeated in this magician, this sort of telepathic willing you, praying, I think, almost to you to please start the next step of this process. Please start it. But it's like they can't talk to you. Even though we have 4 of air, 6 of air, 8 of air, 4, 6, 8. They're all even numbers. We're all skipping things here. There's a sense of like skipping stones or progress that isn't plodding, progress that is leaping in a way. So leapfrogging progress here. Even though we have this idea that you're going back to some sort of restart. I feel like you're going back to the docking station. You're still facing the right direction. You're still facing forward. You're facing the future. But there's a sense of going back to the docking station to, I don't know, to gain momentum or something, or to become a beginner again. But maybe it's not on the same trip. Maybe this was like a test drive here, and now you have to go back to like the dealership or something, and then you can buy the car, and then you can actually leave. It's almost like you went on a test drive of something, and you're being reset, but for the next level here. So right, because when we level up in like a video game, we always start at the first part of that level. So then we have 8 of air. And so normally 8 of air can often be like feeling like you can't do something, not feeling capable. I think this is why we have several sort of entities here just hoping and willing you to be able to. You have the wheat, you have the raw resources, put it together, make something more than the sum of its parts. And then this 8 of air, it can be sort of dealing with like issues about faith in yourself, which we already have in 4 of air here. It's almost like your self-confidence gets shaken even more. Perhaps this belief in you is even more unmooring or more difficult for you. It's interesting to have the Empress and the 8 of air here, because the Empress is full of self-confidence. I have done this. I have achieved this much. And then this 8 of air is sort of like feeling like you can't move forward, or you don't know how to move forward, or feeling trapped and stuck. But the way this 8 of air comes to me is like wishes and dreams, and sending those out into the universe and prayers with just all these feathers. And the feathers came up in some of the the other readings, the love readings I just did, as far as like messengers and messages, and not being able to go someplace yourself, but not feeling like you can go someplace yourself, but sending down, letting go of something. It's actually like mimicking the Six of Air a little bit, as far as letting go of something and like being able to, like molting and being able to grow new feathers for this new journey or this new part, and having to let go of these older feathers, or these feathers that, you know, they're just not useful anymore. They're not necessary. So there's a sense of letting them go and feeling like maybe having some anxiety about letting something go, because the new feathers aren't in yet. So there's a sense of letting something go and feeling a sense of loss about it, and feeling like maybe you're going back to the beginning, maybe you're starting all over again. But you're not. You have the full set of feathers. It's just there's a time period where you might be feeling the lack, or feeling like incapable of really doing what you want to do because you've had to let some things go, and that may have you feeling incapable, when in fact at the very center of this we have you as very capable, and you know it, and you've proven it because you have the fruits of your labors in your hand. So it just seems like there's some self-doubt and feeling like a setback here is what I would say. You're feeling a setback, but I feel like this magician is like either a mentor or someone that really, really believes in you. So even if you have suffered a setback, or even if you have to let go of something, there's a sense of this is all part of the process of, it reminds me of making something more than some of the parts, right? And so the magician I often think of as a chef or a cook. So this reminds me of like, if you like, sorry to any vegans, but if you like, not, well, that's just not where I'm at. So if you brown your ham in the cast iron, you know, Dutch oven, you brown your ham in that, and then you take it out, and then you start cooking other things. Well, that taking it out isn't like, we're not making soup anymore, we're done cooking, what's going on here? It's just, that's what has to happen, is you have to take it out. So and then you can cook other things, and it's all part of some process. But in that moment, you may feel a little bit of panic about having to remove something from the creative process, or from the creation, or from what you're trying to accomplish, having to remove something from that process so that you can continue on with the process, but it might freak you out for a minute. Like this Six of Air, this like headed in one direction, but you feel like you're going in the other direction for a while. Something's being removed or dropped, and it's going to feel weird. But there is a sense of, this magician is here very strongly saying, this is part of the process. Trust me. Trust me is what the magician is saying. So this could all be just describing one event or one meeting or one something, or it could be, you know, overall for the week ahead. So a synchronicity card, I love it. Pegasus, transcending, rising above something, getting a better view. I think this magician has the overview. This magician has the vision of what this is going to look like at the end. So this Pegasus is maybe even adopting the vision of the magician, right? I feel like the Empress can be a little bit in the trenches as far as like really dealing with like nuts and bolts reality, growing the actual wheat, and chopping the vegetables. Like maybe the Empress has you feeling a bit like a chef's assistant or something, and the magician's like, just trust me, this is gonna go well. So anyway, there might be a moment where it might be worthwhile to transcend sort of your earthly vision for something for the magician's overall vision. And I also just want to say, like, we have so many characters in the clouds here, and this Pegasus rising up into the clouds. And then we have a winged creature here. So we have a lot of like air, a lot of air, a lot of communication, a lot of, but I also want to say visionary. I want to say like overall this visionary idea coming in with these nuts and bolts and maybe some disappointment and maybe things not going very well. And then a little prayer for you, for us as the collective. Resourceful rabbit, I love this because this Empress is very resourceful. Cunning, friendliness, optimism. Yeah, optimism, even though you've got a couple, your mind may not be feeling very optimistic, but there is a sense of needing to embrace that anyway. Clever creature of the woods, teach me to leap easily over difficulty. I could not. And here we have the Pegasus leaping above some of these more earthly difficulties or earthly problems, or there's like a sense of what's in front of your face isn't the whole story, and getting a larger vision for that. And that may actually be part of the difficulty, is what's in front of your face this week isn't matching up with the vision. And I just keep hearing this magician like saying, trust me, trust me, trust me. So trusting the overall vision. So hopefully that was helpful for your week. We'll see anyway, this experiment is completed. Hopefully we enjoyed it. Ciao.